Flapper Bandit is legally dead, but girl shown court clemency dives in her place. The Casper Daily Tribune, March 25, 1924. Los Angeles, March 25th. The miracle of regeneration has been undertaken by the law. Gene Carlton, so-called Flapper Bandit, has been pronounced legally dead by the courts. Anna Johnson is born in her place. Judge Russ Avery of the Superior Court has given Anna Johnson, in place of Gene Carlton, her one chance in 10,000. And that means that the young woman must indeed be reborn and live a life so different that she will be expected to forget that Gene Carlton ever lived. The story of Gene Carlton is modern, intensely so, and has all the jazz that could be packed into the space of a few years by a girl in search of adventure and thrills. For months, there have been reports of young women bandits on the streets of Los Angeles. But these reports were usually of color thrown in by reporters in search of the unusual in their writings from police records. Nobody took the stories of Flapper Bandits very seriously in police circles, and certainly not the police themselves. It was a real surprise, therefore, when Gene Carlton, hanging from the balcony of a home in which a volunteer police officer had been slain in a duel in the dark with a burglar, dropped like a ripe plum into the arms of a policeman, and was found to be the very type of a Flapper Bandit. A fortunate train unwittingly furnished through the capture of the young woman led to Edward Carlton, just out of the Navy, and fixed upon him the crime of the killing of Special Officer Robert E. McGee, who did police work for the love of it, and walked boldly in upon Carlton at his work of burglary and was instantly killed by a shot from the dark. The Flapper Bandit was soon identified as Gene Carlton, the bride of the young burglar and bandit. And the police believed her story that it was her first adventure in banditry or burglary with her husband. Carlton was brought to trial on a murder charge before a mixed jury of men and women. It seemed almost certain that he would receive the death penalty, but because he was such a good-looking young man, some of the women jurors refused to vote to hang him, and he was sent to San Quentin on a life sentence. Gene Carlton was then brought to trial before Judge Russ Avery. She was adjudged guilty of manslaughter. Her attorneys said they would put in an application for probation, and it was then that Judge Avery said there was only one chance in 10,000 that the application would be granted. Saturday, the application came up before Judge Avery. The girl's history was recited to the court as showing her subnormal in mentality. Her escapades began about 3 years ago, when she took the name of Jean. It was an adventure in psychology. She figured in 2 elopements, she bobbed her hair, she began the use of rouge and cosmetics, developed a complex for jazz in all its forms, and finally became the bride of Carlton and a partner in his desperate venture into banditry and burglary. Judge Avery pondered this history of the girl, and finally decided to give her that one chance in 10,000, but under stern conditions that would bring her back to the normal life she deserted with her first change of name. "As you pass through that door," said Judge Avery, pointing to the door of the courtroom as the girl stood before him, "Gene Carlton will die. Born in her place will be Anna Johnson. In the years to come, you must remember that." Judge Avery then recited the conditions upon which he gave the girl a trial on probation. They were: change of her name from Gene Carlton to Anna Johnson, and never to use any other than the old-fashioned name of Anna. To live under the supervision of Mrs. McCracken, probation officer, in an institution. To let her hair grow. To stop using rouge, powder, and cosmetics. To forget jazz parties and cabarets. To learn housework. To keep herself neat and clean in the old-fashioned way. To communicate with her husband in prison only through Mrs. McCracken. These conditions of probation are to endure at least 10 years, and if they are violated, then the young woman is to be brought before the court for sentence to prison.